First at 9.
Coming to you live and direct from the News First newsroom here in Colombo, Sri Lanka. This is your prime time news bulletin. A very good evening. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Nicola D'Zoiza. 50 years ago today, the historic I Have a Dream speech was delivered by civil rights movement leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to a crowd of over 250,000 people who thronged the Washington Mall.
50 years later, what relevance does Dr. King's words hold in the modern world?
We have a comprehensive report on the 50th anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s most famous speech coming up later in the news. But first, a look at tonight's headlines.
The headlines on News First at 9.
UN Human Rights Chief Navneethan Pillai visits Trincomalee. Minister Nimal Siripala hopes that the UN Human Rights Chief would see a different picture of Sri Lanka.
ඉතා වෙනස් වූ චිත්‍රයක් දැන් එතුමියට පෙනෙයි කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
Fonterra brands Sri Lanka to recommence operations in Sri Lanka. Governor of the central bank says that certain analysts are not willing to accept the economical victories achieved by Sri Lanka. The Salaries Commissioner grants permission to increase the wages of provincial sports services officers.
News First at 9.
The UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navneethan Pillai, toured several areas in the Trincomalee district today.
Upon arriving in Trincomalee, the UN High Commissioner for the Human Rights, Navneethan Pillai, called on the Governor of the Eastern Province, Rear Admiral Mohan Vijay Vikrama, at the Governor's office. The Governor had brought the UN Human Rights Chief up to speed on development and the resettlement of internally displaced persons in the Eastern Province. Our reporter in Trincomalee said the discussion lasted about an hour. Subsequently, Navneethan Pillai called on the Trincomalee District Secretariat to meet with the secretaries of the Eastern Province. A group staged a demonstration while Pillai was en route to the District Secretariat. The demonstration was staged by two organizations, namely the Northeastern Single Organization and the Collective of Parents of the Dead and Missing. Our reporter says that a letter prepared by the demonstrators was also submitted and was accepted by an advisor to the UN Human Rights Chief. Meanwhile, the UN Human Rights Chief also met the Trincomalee District Citizens Committee in Uppuveli.
3 days into her visit to Sri Lanka, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights remains a favorite topic for political representatives in the country.
Let's take a look at some of the views expressed over the past 2 days on the political stage regarding Navneethan Pillai's visit.
Navneethan
Pillai met me as a minister. When she met me, she asked if there was going to be any change in the powers granted through the 13th Amendment to the Constitution in Parliament. I answered that as far as I can see, there will be no change. But this depends on the establishment of the Northern Provincial Council. I told her that I think that the following establishment of the Northern Provincial Council, whether it is the UPFA or the TNA that comes into power, if it acts appropriately and works together with the central government, then via experience, we can say that there will be no question of changing the amendment.
When Madam Pillai was to come here, we said that we do not want Madam Pillai here. Some asked us that although we say we do not want Madam Pillai, wasn't it the government that invited her?
ඇයි අපි පිල්ලේ නෝනට වානා කියන්නේ? පිල්ලේ නෝනා
Madam Pillai is a lawyer. In the law, there is a factor called the fundamental of natural justice. The first law in that is that you must not preside over your own case.
තමන්ගේ නඩුව තමන් නොයසිය යුතුයි කියලා.
මේ දවස්වල වෙලා දකින්න ඇතින අර නෝනා කෙනෙක් ඇවිල්ලා ඉන්නවා කියලා.
These days you can see how Navanithan Pillai's visit has become a big problem for some. They say that we invited her. Some say that she will come here, destroy everything and go. We asked Navanithan Pillai to come here.
නෝ මොකද මේ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා.
Go to Mannar, go to Jaffna, talk to the people there. Whether it is Navanithan Pillai or someone higher up than her that comes, we have nothing to be afraid of.
අපිට බය වෙන්න දෙයක් නැහැ.
මේ රටේ අහිංසක මිනිස්සුන්ට විරුද්ධව
The government used the army to carry out a duty to eradicate murderous terrorism that threatened to divide the country and acted against the innocent people of this country. During such a battle, such an eradication campaign, there is a possibility that the lives of innocent people may be lost. These are not things that are done deliberately. However, the LTTE terrorists deliberately murdered hundreds of thousands of innocents. That is where human rights have been violated.
අන්න එතන තමයි මානව හිමිකම් කඩකිරීම වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. නිසා නවින් පිල්ලේ මහත්මිය තේරුම් ගන්න ඕන මේ මානව හිමිකම් කඩකිරීමේ ස්වභාවය කුමක්ද කියලා.
එතුමියගේ පැමිණීම ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ජයග්‍රහණයක්.
Her arrival in Sri Lanka is a victory. The international community will no longer be able to level false and preposterous allegations against us on the international level. At the same time, we believe that given the present situation in Sri Lanka, she will be able to see a far different picture to what is painted by our opponents. If she fails to see this, then she is looking at Sri Lanka through a different set of glasses. There is a mandate for Navi Pillai, and that mandate only allows her to come here and inspect. She has no right to give orders to the government. Neither will the government accept orders given by such a person.
නවී පිල්ලේ මැතිනියට කරන්න පුළුවන් භූමිකාවක් තියෙනවා. ඒක එතුමියට ඇවිල්ලා මෙහි තියෙන පරීක්ෂණ කිරීම පමණයි. එතුමියට රජයට නියෝග දීමට කිසිම අයිතියකුත් නැහැ. එහෙම කෙනෙක් දෙන නියෝග රජය පිළිගන්නේ නැහැ.
Navanithan Pillai, more commonly known as Navi Pillai, is known to most people around the world as UN High Commissioner for Human Rights. But who is the lady herself?
That's right. Let's take a look at a brief profile on the UN Human Rights Chief.
Born in 1941, Navi Pillai, a South African national, was the first woman to start a law practice in her home province of Natal in 1967. Over the next few years, she acted as a defense attorney for anti-apartheid activists, exposing torture and helping establish key rights for inmates of the notorious Robben Island prison, where former South African President Nelson Mandela himself was interred at one point. In 1995, after the end of apartheid in South Africa, Pillai was appointed as acting judge of the South African High Court, and in the same year was elected by the UN General Assembly to be a judge on the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, where she served a total of 8 years, the last 4 as president. In 2003, she was appointed as a judge on the International Criminal Court in The Hague, where she served on the appeals chamber until August 2008. In South Africa, Navi Pillai, as a member of the Women's National Coalition, contributed to the equality clause in the country's constitution that prohibits discrimination. Her appointment as the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights was approved by the UN General Assembly on the 28th of July 2008. She took up the post on the 1st of September the same year, and her mandate was renewed for 2 years, beginning on the 1st of September last year.
Let's now take a look at the newspaper cartoon of the day, which we selected from amongst today's English newspapers.
At a media briefing convened by the Sri Lanka Freedom Party today, journalists raised questions over the statement made by the opposition leader on the break-in at the residence of journalist Mandana Ismail Abewikrama.
Yesterday, the opposition leader made an allegation regarding the break-in and assault on the residence of a journalist. He said that the act was committed by the government as there were documents pertaining to the Krish building project at her residence. it is a normal thing for the opposition leader to blame the government. We reject the statement made by the opposition leader. In such an incident, the police and other respective institutions will conduct impartial investigations. There is no government influence. However, it is also said that she had documents on Namal Rajapaksa and they came there for those documents. We don't know anything about that. We don't know that even though you do. The journalist has not mentioned such a thing. This is all speculation.
The managing director of Sri Lanka's most popular milk powder producer Fonterra Brands Sri Lanka, Leon Clement, says that Fonterra will resume operations in the island immediately. He added that Fonterra suspended operations due to concerns the management had on the safety of its staff members.
Following the reviews by the senior management, Clement said that the company is now comfortable in resuming operations. Managing Director of Fonterra Brands Sri Lanka, Leon Clement, said that the current environment is ideal to recommence operations in Sri Lanka. Clement also noted that in light of the interim injunction order which was vacated on Friday, Fonterra Brands Sri Lanka can manufacture, sell and distribute their products in the island.
Meanwhile, quoting the Ministry of Primary Industries of New Zealand, the BBC World Service says that Fonterra products at the centre of a global contamination scare did not contain botulism-causing bacteria. We'll be back after a short commercial break.